What's up, everybody? It's Brad Montgomery. I've missed you. Okay, what am I? Who are we fooling? I can't even see you, but I am glad you are here. It's successful, interesting, and awesome. Where we interview people who are at least one of those things. Today we have the hat trick. We have everybody. I met our guest because she hired me to speak at her conference, and she works in a ridiculously interesting industry. It happens to be my industry, so obviously I think it's interesting. But this is the kind of thing where most people don't even know it exists. We're going to learn all about the professional meeting planning industry, the hospitality industry, hoteliers, AV people, but she is a meeting planner. She's the owner of Global Source. She's a big deal. She's kind of a big deal. Welcome to your laptop or your phone or wherever. This is Patti Palacios. Patti!
Thanks, Brad. Good to see you.
Well, it's fun to have a hotshot on the podcast.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Well, all right. So when you meet people at a cocktail party and they say, "What do you do?" I'm in sales, and you say, "Well, I'm in the meeting planning world." How do you answer that question? What do you do, Patti?
You know, that's really when we first started doing what we were doing, coming from the hotel world into actually planning the meetings, most people have no idea. They think we work at a Motel 6. I mean, Thanksgiving dinner, with family and extended family is always, so what do you do? I'm a meeting planner. Oh, you work at a motel. Yeah, okay. So it's very hard to explain what we do because we wear so many different hats. But basically, we plan all the logistics of a meeting, including selecting the city, selecting the hotel. And then once all that is done and the contracts are signed, then we begin executing and planning a meeting, which we can plan a meeting for. We have one that's 8,600 people. We have meetings that are 20 people. So, and everywhere in between. We have corporate clients, we have association clients. So think of it this way, there's an association for everything. American Medical Association. There's probably an association for left-handed plumbers. I mean, there's literally about 8,000 associations in the world, and all of them have meetings.
Right.
Every corporation in the world has meetings. So we are the person that actually is behind the scenes working with the hotel, the AV company, the florist, the transportation company, everybody to make sure that this meeting goes off perfectly.
I think, Patti, my experience with you guys has been you make it look easy. So we attend these meetings, or even if for people who haven't attended a big corporate meeting or an association meeting, they've been to a big wedding, and they think, how hard can it be? Someone gets some food, they call the hotel and arrange a block of rooms, they book a speaker. How hard could that be? But how often do you get that? Like, what? It takes how long for you to plan a meeting?
What we normally get is, oh, you're a party planner. Oh. And there's a big difference between a party planner, someone that plans a party, maybe, bar mitzvah, maybe a wedding, and a true meeting planner. A true meeting planner is one that actually works with corporations and associations and large hotels and everything else. So there are a lot of logistics from getting someone there to the air, the transportation companies, getting them from the airport. The worst thing you can do is lose the CEO's luggage, right? So there's all these little nuances that you have to make sure that you don't drop a ball. And literally, we probably have hundreds of balls up in the air at one time. And it's very intricate. And so we hope that people like you that come to our meetings see that it is flawless, because there are many things behind the scenes that may not have been flawless,
right,
but that we fix before they ever get to anyone in the audience.
Well, before we go on, you mentioned it, losing the CEO's suitcase. That's happened, right? Come on, that's happened.
It does happen. Yes. It's not only that, we have had CEOs that have left their passports in their safe, right? And they're on their way to the airport in the car, and they say, oh, I forgot my passport in the safe. And so, of course, we're going to make sure that we get someone to go get the passport out of the safe. And so that's where you have to know your hoteliers and say, no, I need it now, not 2 hours from now. And then we need to get a driver to drive it out to the airport and meet the person and make sure they get on their flight. So easy, right? Not really.
Well, it's on that category of stuff you never thought was part of the meeting world,
Right. But
which
it is.
I sense is most of your job. I feel like you guys are an interesting occupation. You're similar to the audio visual people who make sure we can hear and see everything that you produce. If it's done well, you don't notice the people doing it, right? If you
Exactly.
have a flawless meeting, it means Patty's invisible.
That's right. I mean, most people never meet us. They don't know who we are. It's normally the people that we have hired us. So it could be a meeting planner at a company that has hired us. It could be an admin that hired us, or it could be, a senior vice president of marketing. Those are the people that we know because we have to find out what is their expectation in the meeting? What is their message that they want to get out? So it's not just having a meeting, it's what message they want to get
Right.
out, what they want to achieve by the end of the meeting, and all that goes into the pre-work. So we may work on a meeting, obviously several months, a year before that meeting ever happens.
I think that would blow most people away, Patty. That you work for a year for a meeting. I've been at your meetings that you and your peers produce where while I'm at the meeting, somebody's already preparing the next year's meeting. They've been on it for a couple of months.
Exactly. It's kind of like Christmas, Macy's Day Parade. What do? The day after Thanksgiving, they start next year's meeting, which is basically what we're doing. As soon as we finish one meeting, we begin working on the next one.
All right. So, and you've been in this industry for how long?
40 years. So I actually started on the hotel side. I started at the front desk, worked my way up, went into sales and marketing, spent most of my time in sales and marketing as a director of sales. And so that's really pretty much the value that we bring to our clients. We understand what the hoteliers need. We understand what their contracts look like. We understand where we can negotiate because we also understand the profit and loss of a hotel. So we bring that knowledge to our clients and help negotiate those contracts for them. We also help negotiate contracts for the destination management company or the AV company or the speaker. All of that knowledge that I had from the hotel side, which was about 18 years on the hotel side. I worked for hotels, Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company, Westin, Stouffer Hotels, and then actually went on to the other side, which we call the other side, the meeting planning side.
So your first hotel job, where was that?
My first hotel job was in Detroit, Michigan, at the brand new Westin Hotel downtown. They were pre-opening the hotel. It was a 1,400 room hotel in downtown Detroit. It was my first job. And then 6 months later, I got transferred to open another hotel in Houston, Texas.
That is not what I expected, Patty. I
Mhm.
thought you were going to say like, well, Roadway Inn, in a small town. You started at a Westin, a brand new Westin.
Yes. So pre-opening is usually 2 years before the hotels open if it's a large hotel, but a year and a half, year depends. So I pre-opened that hotel, getting the front desk hired, ready, trained, all of that, and then we opened, and then I was there for about maybe 5 months, and they were opening another hotel, a Westin Hotel in Houston. So I got transferred to pre-open that hotel.
That must have been a heady experience. You're a young woman, and they say, "Patty, you did such a good job. We want, we need you." That must
It
have
was
felt
actually
amazing.
great. I was 20 years old and, I had never left Michigan. And so I got in my car, drove to Houston, and found out that Houston's very warm in August and you need air conditioning in your car. So, life lessons learned, right?
Wait, so pre-opening means you mentioned hiring people, hiring for the front desk. So you're a
Right.
20-year-old person hiring people that are going to work and represent Weston.
Yes, we do what we call mass hiring when we open a new hotel. So we interviewed about 3,000 people over the course of 3 days. So the way that they do it is a first interview is what we could just call the rush, and it's 5 minutes. And literally, you get people in 5 minutes. Do they even go to the next level? And then when they go to the next level, and so it's literally done within a week. So
Wow.
you hire enough staff. So for that hotel, we probably hired about 1,000 people in all different departments,
Right.
right? So it's just, yeah, people are just waiting in line and we try and get them through. We have this huge ballroom set up where, sales is over there and front desk is here and we just start the interview process.
But I'm just trying to picture a 20-year-old looking across that table in the 5 minute speed interview, thinking, if it were me, I'd be thinking, do they know I don't know what I'm doing? I'm a kid.
Well, that's kind of what I thought. Do they know I don't know what I'm doing?
Right. Right.
You learn together. But you know what? It was funny. I had a girl that I knew as soon as she walked up, I knew exactly she would be a great concierge. I just knew, just
Gut feeling.
personality wise, everything. You just kind of know where they're going to fit. And she came up and said she wanted to be a steward. Well, a steward is actually a dishwasher. So I realized she really did not know the hotel business, which was fine. And we were willing to train. And so we said, okay, I told her, don't say that to anybody else because that's really not where you want to be. This is where you want to be. And so we put her over to that line. And so we just keep the line moving that way.
Okay, that's a feel good moment, right? So
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
says, I want to
You,
be a dishwasher and they're a concierge.
and I still keep in touch with her. This person is a director of sales at a Ritz Carlton. Years, many,
Well,
many years later.
you read my mind because I wanted to know if you still were in touch. Did has she ever said, Patty, you gave me that break. I was going to be a dishwasher, for crying out loud?
Yeah, she
Has she ever
did.
said that?
Yeah, she did. She's like, "Look where I am now."
That must
Yeah,
make you feel good, right?
it does. It makes you feel great. And, you meet, I mean, through my career, I've met so many people that they'll come up to me and say, you probably don't remember me, but you hired me when I was a front desk clerk. And that's where I started in the hotel business. And now I'm in sales or,
Mm.
whatever. And it is fun. It's great to see them move up through the ranks.
Yeah, that must feel because I think hiring people is okay. Honestly, I'm just not very good at it myself. It just seems so difficult. So knowing that your gut feelings have paid off, you go, girl.
That's right. It's kind of fun.
Tell me, let's talk about the future of meetings a little bit, and allow me to give you some context. I follow Velvet Chainsaw, and one of my best buddies works for Velvet Chainsaw, and they are. Are you familiar with them? I bet you are.
Mhm. I am.
So they come out and say, "Oh, here's how meetings are going to be. The old meetings are done. We're doing it this way. It's very forward thinking." And then my experience, Patty, has been most of my clients don't listen to it. They start just doing stuff because they've done it the same way for 25 years or 35 years. So that means I listen to Velvet Chainsaw saying, "Here's the future," and I go, "Oh, that's amazing, really good thinking." And I go out to these conferences, and it's not that way. What am I missing? Why? Where is
Well,
that logjam?
I don't think you're missing anything. So tech is the future, right? And we all want to involve in our AV portion of it and some other portions of it. The tech part of it where you can scan your badge and you can know how many people have gone through your trade show or whatever. And through COVID, we had virtual meetings, right? We went from in person meetings to virtual meetings. Then we started coming out of COVID and we went into what we call hybrid meetings. So part in person, part virtual, which actually is expensive because you're doing two types of meetings instead of one. Most of the meetings that we have right now, they said virtual or I'm sorry, in um, a hybrid will stick around. It's going to be part in person, part virtual. And we're not finding that to be true right now. Right now, everybody wants to be out and in person live at a meeting. And the other thing is, for years, people said, oh, your job's going to go away because everything's going to be, virtual. People aren't going to want to meet. They're not going to get together at hotels and all this kind of nonsense because as we all know, people need to meet, they need to network. It's not just about the content of the meeting. That's very important, of course. The education, the content is very important. But the networking, is probably one of the most important things, and it will never go away, especially with a sales meeting or um, any kind of really any kind of meeting. Even if you have, a group of accountants, they all want to know what are you doing, Brad, that
Right.
makes your job easier, or what is helping you, and that's a networking part. And you don't get that unless you are in person together. And it's also, if you're with a corporation, meeting the different people in your company, the president. You're not going to meet the president every day, right? But you're going to meet them at a meeting. So those kind of things. Or if it's a meeting for recognition, you want to be with your peers to celebrate. I did a great job this year. I want to be in person. I want to celebrate with the other people that are winning, and not only the other people that are winning, but people that didn't make it this year get encouraged
Right.
by people that have won. So, of course, that's going to up the sales for any company because they want to also be a winner.
I think you
So, I
nailed it. I
still
think there's
think
nothing
that
worse than
relationship and being in person is very important.
winning an award from your peers on Zoom.
Right. And I felt sorry for the people that for 2 years won their awards on Zoom.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
just not,
employee of the year. No one cares.
no one cares. Yeah.
Well, all right. So what about the introverts? And here's what I mean. The people you're talking to are calling saying, Patty, we're craving in person. And you're seeing the power of in-person meetings by people who have selected to be there. In the back of my mind, I keep wondering about the people who are missing virtual meetings because they liked staying home and they didn't like going into that ballroom with a lot of people they didn't know. Are they still there? Or are we ignoring them, or how are they being served?
Well, I don't think we're ignoring them. I think you have to make an effort to include them. So whether it's a mentorship program and you have a buddy system, nobody wants to walk into a ballroom with 1,000 people they don't know.
No.
I mean, not many. Even an extrovert is still, I think that's a hard situation. So there are ways that you can do it, or if you have new people going to a meeting, you can do a buddy system where, you first do a newcomers meeting. So all the newcomers meet each other in a much smaller group. And then they go to the larger meetings together. But you can also do a mentorship where, you maybe take some of those extroverts, and the company knows who those people are, right? So you take those people and you make sure that they're included in everything.
Right.
And then you will find that those people are really willing to step up to the table and help do things and get involved if someone would just ask them to be involved.
Hallelujah. That I'm an extrovert. When I'm asked to go to the reception before you, so I'm speaking in the morning on Tuesday. On Monday night, Brad, come to the reception. There's 1,000 people in the exhibit hall. I'm an extrovert and I hate that because it just makes you feel so lonely. You walk in there and even though it's not true, it feels like everyone knows somebody and they're all talking to each other. That's a tough call.
It is a tough situation. So you have to, it's just nice to include people into the circle. I've always told people, if there's, 5 people in a group talking to someone's kind of walking up, open the circle, make sure that they're included to the conversation.
Well, there's something. What about? I mean, it's nice to talk about you, but what about me and what you think of me? One of the things I've done has limited traction, and I wanted to run it past you. When I've done it, it's been very successful, but often meeting planners are not interested. I love having sessions at the very beginning of the program where it's a facilitated networking session. Keyword being facilitated, because I think even the extroverts love to be told, turn to the neighbor in your left and use these words, and then listen, and then here's how we're going to change to other people. My sense of that is that the introverts love those and the extroverts love those because it's lonely for everybody. But I don't feel like the industry wants that. Can you comment?
Okay, so I am really not an extrovert. I live in that world, which is kind of hard sometimes. I actually hate doing those things because I don't want to turn the person next to me. I don't know. It's to me, it takes me out of my comfort zone.
Right.
And so I think planners shy away from it. Um, so, maybe do something a little different where it's more of a group discussion versus turning to the neighbor next to you, or, when speakers say, okay, everybody stand up and turn to the person next to you. I don't know. That just is, it's not in my comfort zone. It may be in some other people's.
Right.
But you can just kind of see the whole crowd going, oh, you know,
Well, that
where of course we want the whole crowd to go, oh, Brad's wonderful, and yay, let's do something fun. Even if you do something that is just gets them energized, maybe a little, exercise or some music or something, it's fun. Um, but I do know that a lot of the planners do shy away from that.
this is a helpful conversation. So here's what we know. We know that if you asked all of the attendees to all of your meetings why you're going, they'd say networking is a big reason. But we also know, just like you, and by the way, I'm on and Team Patty on this one. If you say, do you like those sessions where they say turn to your neighbor and you have to talk to people and get in a small group? We also know everyone's going to say, I hate those. So there's a mismatch. This is what you're craving, but no one feels comfortable doing it. How do we handle that?
Well, I'm not sure. I think, if you don't have a speaker, obviously the breakouts are a great, way to get people involved in a much smaller group. And they'll go to the breakouts that are interesting to them. They select it. So they know, I want to go to this one. I want to learn from people in a smaller group on this topic. The other thing that you can do, and I know that we talked about this when we were having you at our meeting, was talking about doing a little team building afterwards, doing maybe a fun project together. That does seem to work. I definitely see where people want to get together and have to build something fun, or
Right.
make something, be creative, right? So then you get now you have to be careful, because you get all those A-type personalities that are like, I got it.
Right.
And then the rest of us are just sitting there going, okay, well, go ahead. But we're like, well, that's not what I would have done.
Right.
So
and they're really thinking, how long do I have to stay here before I can escape back to my hotel room?
Exactly. So you don't want to lose those people.
What is a weird? It is a weird thing, and I think you're right on it. I mentioned there's not much appetite for it. My favorite compliment after those types of sessions is predictable, in that people say, you know what, I usually hate this type of thing, but this one worked, and I thought I was going to feel really stupid and embarrassed, but you made me feel comfortable. But once you say, I'm going to break people into groups, they're like, oh my gosh, run away.
Yeah, if you can find one that works, it's great. It's just hard to do that.
Can we talk about panels?
Sure.
I was very lucky that I got to host a panel at your meeting, but it seems to me that panels often are an afterthought, like, oh, our speaker's not here, we'll have a panel. And often they are horrible, but equally true, they're amazing. And people, sometimes a highlight of a meeting. What makes a good panel and what makes a panel crappy?
I think diversity makes a good panel. You don't want all the same type of people. You want the diversity on whatever subject that you're speaking of. You want to make sure that you have first of all, qualified people, right? And someone that can speak to that topic, and make sure that you have, people on the panel that bring a different perspective to whatever
Right.
the panel is speaking about. And so, that's why, like on our panel, we had, for the meetings industry, we had a hotelier, we had a meeting planner, we had a third party, which is ourselves, and then we had a AV company. All of them we work together with, right? We're all partners, but we all have different jobs and different perspectives that we bring.
Well, honestly, I thought your panel was outstanding, and I'm pretty sure it has to do with the panel host.
I'm sure it has to do with the panel host. Well, that is another thing that I will say is I would never do a panel without a host. You see a lot of people that do a panel, but they don't have a moderator or host to make sure that you don't have those horrible silent pauses
Yeah.
and no one's speaking and no one knows what the next question is. That's the other thing on a panel. You have to rehearse. I mean, you have to know, um, you have to put some work into it. I think people think, oh, I'll invite 4 people on a panel, I'll tell them what the topic is, and then we'll just get up there and kind of make it up.
Yeah. Not so much.
Not so much. I mean,
There's
you
got to be a
really need
plan.
to have it rehearsed. You need to know what the topics are, and you definitely need to have a moderator to make sure that that person can keep the panel going.
One of the things that has worked for me and kind of changed my mindset, really in every portion of my work, is something I wanted to ask you about. At some point, things clicked, Patty, where I realized everyone's insecure. So all the people sitting up on that stage are going, "Oh, this is so awkward. I'm sitting in a chair on stage, and people are looking at me. Do my clothes look right? And are they? Do I look okay? And am I going to say something stupid?" And similarly, the person introducing the CEO is worried they're going to mess it up, and they didn't sleep very well the night before because they're worried about the intro. And the CEO is worried about their state of the organization, and they're insecure about it. And once I realized that, and that changed so many things in the way I approach those people and try to support them. But it's not something anyone would guess, I think, because they're the CEO. They're in the panel. They must be a hotshot. Not always the case.
We find that from CEOs. We like to do sometimes a meeting in the round, right? Where the speaker, the CEO or whatever is, especially if it's a huge audience, they're touching everybody by actually rotating. We can't get one to do it because they're so insecure
Right.
that they're like, oh no, I have to do it this way. I have to be straight on. I have to be at the podium. If we can even get one that will walk the stage and walk around, that's
Right.
great. But you're right. Most of the time they're like, no, I need to be right here. I
Right.
need to be, I need to see the monitors. So it's, everybody is. And, I think the audience needs to take that into consideration and just kind of say, we want this great for everyone. So if you have questions, make it a flow situation and say, ask your questions. Let's get them involved.
Yeah. It is powerful, right? It's I'm trying to picture that CEO. Here they are, theoretically, we would all think they're a CEO. They have proof that they're amazing. Yet they're thinking, I don't want them to see my butt, or I don't want them to see this side of my face, or my hair looks wrong, or whatever. They're just like the rest of us.
They're just like the rest of us. And isn't that a great lesson in life? Is everybody, from the janitor on down, you treat everybody the same way because we all have the insecurities. We all have, you know, things that we don't want someone to see or whatever.
Do you remember a time when you that truth became evident to you? I'm thinking about that young woman who's opening hotels. At some point, you realized, wait, these people who are supervising me really don't know what they're doing either. They're just as worried as I am.
Oh, yes, I've definitely had that. Actually, that's when I changed over to the meeting planning side. Actually, that's when I decided that I didn't want to work in corporate America anymore. Is I realized that the people that were telling me what I should be doing, I'm like, maybe I have a better idea. Maybe I need to do it this way. Maybe I'm more comfortable doing it this way. And having your own company, you get to do that. You may make some bad choices and you may make some good choices, but at least you're doing it your way and working to your full potential.
Well, Patty, that is what we call a segue. So, yeah, you have your own company. How did
I
that
do.
happen?
Well, after many years of being in corporate America and starting a company with someone else, and having their company grow, 10 years ago, I decided, you know what, I think I can just have my own company. Um, so yeah, 10 years ago, I opened my own company, and it's been great.
What surprised you about having your own company?
Not a lot, only because I did it with someone else years ago, and I think I learned a lot of the drawbacks and maybe what not to do, and maybe some things that I needed to do. So there was not a lot that surprised me, actually, which is probably a good thing. I was ready. I was definitely ready.
Right. Well, you strike me, if I may be so bold as to be personal, you seem to have the right personality for it. My informal Brad Montgomery study of successful meeting planners goes like this.
Oh, how does that
People,
go?
good meeting planners are super calm. They seem unflappable. They have a very clear vision, as in, no, I don't want that. I do want this. And they just don't tend to get anxious and weird. That seems like you. You just seem like, I got this, people. Did I read you right?
Well, I think so. I mean, you know your business, right? Hopefully after 40 years, I know what I'm doing. So you know your business. You're pretty confident about it. And do we have those times, what we call in the back of the house where we're like, oh my God, this is falling apart? Sure. And we make sure that we get the right people on it and get things moving in the right direction. But we know that nothing's going to be perfect in our world. We have to make it perfect. And so you have to know who you can rely on in everything, whether it's a transportation company or the hotel. You have to know the right people to go to get something done. And that will make you successful. And you have to have great partnerships out there. I mean, you have to, if you treat people with disrespect, that's what you're going to get back. If you treat everybody with respect, people are willing to do anything to help, as long as you ask for it in the right way and treat them with respect. I think they really want to go out of their way to help someone, right? So yeah, I mean, and I'm pretty calm about things. I mean, we're not curing cancer, right? We are running a meeting. So we know, okay, little things will happen and we are ready for them. We have what we call in the back, we have what we call our war room. And the war room is where all of our supplies are. All of the planners are in the back with walkie-talkies and doing things and making sure that everything is getting done correctly. So if you were back there, you might hear some things once in a while that were like, oh my God, what's going on? We've had speakers not show up. Brad always shows up, but there are things that happen. Flights. I mean, right now flights
Yeah.
are just crazy at best. I mean, it's getting people in on time, getting people to where they need to be. And I would suggest, if you have a very important meeting or you're giving a speech or doing something, you go the day before, because right now we are having trouble with making sure that our people are their flights are taking off, or a lot of canceled flights. So there's always something that we're going to have to make sure that we watch out for. And as long as you know ahead of time, we've got to watch the flight manifest. We have to know what's going on with the flights to make sure that they all get in.
But for those of you who don't know meeting planners, listening to Patty is so instructive. I think one of the things you guys do is plan endlessly. And then when you get there, you're just making stuff up because it's always broken. You're constantly fixing things. And the attendees have no idea that there's problems, and they don't know they're being handled because it's invisible to them. But I think that's what you guys do. In spite of all your planning, you're kind of firemen.
Well, we plan for every scenario, right? So I mean, I will tell you, I had a meal that was supposed to be vegan, and it wasn't. When I saw it come out of the kitchen, I was like, well, this is not. I don't know what the chef was thinking. And so I went back, had to, literally get it done in like 20 minutes. So you check things ahead of time, right? We don't wait till they're walking out the door with the meal to say, oh, I hope it's right. Well, no, we're going to be in the back to make sure that it's coming out right. So you plan, and you plan again, and you plan again, and still something could happen. But you just have to make sure that you have another plan. It's always another plan. That's why they call it Plan A, Plan B, Plan C.
You hinted early, or you didn't hint, you said it, that there have been meetings where you're in the back of room saying, oh my heavens, everything's falling off the rails. Can you give us an example of a story, or is there a conference that went especially bad? And you like, what types of problems are we talking about that you were handling and saying, this is a nightmare. You mentioned people missing their flights. What else are we talking about?
Well, I mean, there's people missing flights. We've had hotels that are oversold. So we the hotel's going to walk people. So we tell the hotel that, just don't select anybody, right? We will go through the list with you. We will
Right.
sit down with the list. Like, we really don't want you walking our CEO. So we will go through the list with you, and we will tell you who we might need to walk somewhere. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things, and I don't think we've had meetings that have gone horribly wrong. There's construction sometimes, even though in our contract that says there can not be any construction. Well, guess what? You show up and there's construction, which they didn't tell us about. So that's probably the worst scenario, is when there's construction going on and the hotel hasn't mentioned it, or they've mentioned it, a week out, and, well, that's great. Now where am I going to move 500 people in 1 week? That's not going to happen.
Right.
So we are going to work through the process. I mean, we've had them build fake walls so that we don't see the construction in a week.
Right.
And yeah, so you come up with some pretty creative ideas, and you find a way to make it work.
I would
I mean,
love to be there.
we had a client that said, okay, if they have construction, that I don't want to see it. Okay, well, it's down like two major hallways. So we actually had them build a wall and do a kind of mural design on it with the company's logos. Okay,
Clever.
now that wall that was an eyesore has become a branding opportunity. So that's what you do. You think of something else to make it work. But yes, we've literally had, I mean, everything thrown at us that could possibly
And this
happen.
is why Patty owns her own meeting planning company.
Yeah,
I would just love to be there following you around as you say, you're going to have to build a wall.
Well, you go to a beach hotel. Oh, did we tell you the pool's closed? No, you did not. So, you own a hotel right next door. I guess we'll be using that pool. Oh, well, you can't use that pool because that's their hotel. Well, yeah, we will be using that pool. So, there are definitely things that happen at hotels that they don't always make us aware of in very much time to prepare for them.
I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me recently, and you'll say, "Oh, of course, I know about that." But the question is going to be advice. How would you advise some of younger members on your team or people new to the industry how to do this? So this will not shock you. There was an audiovisual crew that didn't have the stuff I asked for. So even though my client had sent them stuff way ahead of time, and I had literally offered to call them, we get there and the actual people doing the work, not the heads, but the crew doing that room, had none of that. And so the guy looks at me and says, "Yeah, we can't do that," which was going to screw me up. It was going to be horrible. And then I was in a bind saying, if I'm a little grumpy here, that the meeting planner might not understand, or, I'm supposed to be funny in 45 minutes. I don't want to be in a fight right now. So I grabbed the meeting planner and said, "Here's what's going on." And she was just like you, Patty. She just went up there and said, metaphorically, "You're going to have to build a wall." It was so easy. She just said, "Get this done," and they did. I'm not the meeting planner. I'm a vendor. I'm a speaker. But meeting planners can do this. How do you coach younger people to say, you're going to have to stand up to some people who are saying it's impossible and they can't do it, and make them do it? How do you coach them on that?
Well, and I think that's what we talked about, is that you have to make sure that you're going to the right person to get it done. If you're going to someone that is not empowered to make a decision, you're going to hit a brick wall, and you're going to keep hitting that brick wall. So you have to make sure that, okay, if you hit one brick wall, you need to go higher up and get someone that will make the decision and get it done. And you can't be afraid to do that. I mean, we obviously do that all the time, probably way too often. You just have to get it done. And there's a way to get things done, right? Like, of course, she got it done. She figured out what to do and make sure
she was she was tough. She's like, "It's in the contract, get it done. You got 45 minutes, go."
That's right. Let's go.
Yeah, but
Nobody has time for this.
I'm just thinking in my head, I'm a little bit this way. I'm married to a person who's totally this way. A lot of people are pleasers. They just want everyone to like them. So to be able to say, okay, if you're saying no, I'm going to your boss who signed the contract, and you're going to look bad, and I know what's going my way. You just don't know it yet. Then now the sound guy hates you, or the whatever hates you. If you're a pleaser, that's hard.
It is hard, but you're also trying to please the person, and the person that hired you to do the meeting, which
Yeah.
is the CFO or whatever. And even if you're the planner, I mean, we are trying to please that person to make sure that it goes right. So, you know, you have to make those, you just you have to get things done, right?
This is what happens when you own your own company. You just got to be awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about the state of the meeting and convention industry? Just before we started recording, you told me a little bit about how busy you are. And at the meeting I attended with you, I heard about that. But as we record this, it's the end of June 2022. What are you seeing right now? What's it look like?
So we are back to 2019 and beyond. We are actually, the hotel side is on fire, quite honestly. The rates are just going up daily. It's very hard to find space to have a meeting right now. The compression is enormous. Um, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is meetings are back, right? That's plain and simple. Meetings are back. Everybody wants to be at a meeting. The other part of that is that leisure is double what it was. So pre-COVID, leisure is actually double. So the leisure market, I mean, everybody had a more exposable income. That they didn't go anywhere for 2 years, and so now everybody is going on vacation, whether they're driving, flying, or whatever. So the hotels are extremely busy. Normally, the group is probably about 60% of the hotel, depending on the city. And it differs from resorts to suburban properties to downtown properties, but normally the group can make up about 60% of the hotel. And right now, leisure is really boosting that up to more of a 50-50 market.
Mm,
And with all the groups trying to book short term, because, for 2 years, they didn't book anything, right? They were waiting to see what happened.
sure.
Well, now everybody waited until the last minute. Now they want space. And so trying to find space is very hard. It's very compressed. The hotels are sold out. They have very few dates left. Our large meetings, we are booking now for 27 and 28. And people find that, they don't understand that. They're like, well, how would you even know what's going to happen in 27 or 28? Well, we don't. But if we don't book it now, we won't have space.
Right.
So, we book much further out, and then the smaller meetings we book within 6 months to a year. But the hotel business is back. The meetings business is absolutely back, and doing very, very well. So that's great to hear, because I do think that our industry, yes, right, our industry was devastated throughout COVID. I mean, if you go, I was in Las Vegas last week, to see hotels being locked down in Las Vegas. When a hotel opens, it doesn't have a key that they lock every night. That hotel is open forever until they, are not. And to see hotels actually being locked during COVID was just something that was devastating for our industry. And all the workers, I mean, think of all the workers that had no jobs. And now it's back. And
Yeah.
it was really refreshing to see that. So it's great.
It is exciting. I mean, it's kind of exciting just as a human on the planet to see people who haven't had work get it again. But,
Yes.
Personally, it's pretty great because those were rough, right?
Yes, it is. It was rough.
Well, I wonder if I can ask you, I'd be crazy not to take advantage of this. I am a speaker, so I want to ask you about speakers' roles in the meeting industry. From my informal poll of my buddies, people who have been doing this as long as I have, work is up, but very few people are saying it's the same as it was 2019 and before. A lot more fee objection, and just honestly, not as many dates. You said a lot of what you're booking is very far ahead, but you also have people booking close in. I can't quite understand disconnect between what you said is our hotels are full and our meeting planners are killing it. Speakers are saying it's getting better. What am I missing?
Well, I think for the short term are going to be the smaller meetings. And a lot of the smaller meetings don't have a speaker, and they just don't need a speaker. For the larger meetings, they use a speaker. And so those are being booked further out. And the speaker, unfortunately, is not the first thing that we book.
What?
It's probably, I know, but it's probably towards the end, right? You get your air done and your transportation and the hotel and this and that. And then you think, I need a speaker,
Right.
or I need 70 speakers. So I need, 50 speakers, whatever the case may be. And then you start booking speakers. So I think you will find that it will definitely be back to pre 2019 levels very soon. I really do. I mean, I was shocked. I knew it would come back, and I knew it would come back strong. What I didn't know is how strong. But if you look at history repeats itself. Look at the Roaring '20s, right? So they had the flu epidemic, and then what happened right after the flu epidemic? The Roaring
Party.
'20s. Party. The Roaring '20s hit, and it's we're back to that where people have to have connections, right? They love to have those connections and to be able to see their people that they work with, in different cities or countries, and say, God, I haven't seen you in 2 years. And it's just great for them to be back out there. But I
Hallelujah.
know speakers, you will see that they will be back. Yeah.
There's so many things I want to ask you, but we have limited time. Is there, before I start to close this up, because I want to respect your time, is there anything I should have asked you for people who want to know what meeting planners are and do?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, hopefully through our conversation, they kind of get the gist of what we do. My mother didn't know what I did for years. I said, what do you think I do? And she said, I think you talk on the phone a lot. Okay, well, I do,
True.
but yeah.
What you were talking about how going back a step, how speakers are, you have so many things to plan. Speakers are last. I was just talking very recently to one of my buddies, and we were having this very conversation because, of course, we speakers think we're awesome and we're so important, and we've worked so hard to do our thing, and then we get to a high-end meeting, and really we realize we're just like tiny. We're like a condiment. We're like we're
Analogy. It's the speakers are very important. They are, because they bring that message home. Whatever message we want to deliver, right? They are bringing that message home. But they are one piece of a very large pie.
right. Yeah. Which I bet I bet you have lots of examples. A lot of people in my industry have massive egos and don't even know they are not the entire pie.
Some speakers can have an ego.
That was so
I'm not
politic.
saying you do, but some speakers. I mean, think about it. There's some, speakers that really, yes.
What's a
Speakers are what, speakers can be a challenge to a planner if they think that they're the whole pie, right? So sometimes we have to say, yeah, but we need to also incorporate this.
right? Well, it's so weird job, and I think it's the same in every job to some degree. But you have to have an ego to be good at it. You
Yes.
can't stand in front of a room full of people and say, "Hey, look at me! What I'm going to say is going to be great," unless you have some ego. At the same time, too much ego just ruins everything. And so it's a weird.
Yeah, because you're delivering to the audience. The audience is, if the audience thinks that you have too big of an ego, they're like,
Yeah.
that, But if they feel some, if you get one takeaway from a speaker, right? And that's what our people were able to obtain from you, is they had a takeaway. that, you're awesome, right? And so, I think you remember during our meeting where you said, text someone or whatever and tell them they're awesome. And one of the guys in the audience had someone call and go, "What do you want?" Like, what's wrong? Because he said he was awesome. And you have that takeaway, and that's good. And it's a feel good, right? So everybody wants to feel good. And that's really was the goal of our meeting was, we didn't want to hear about, the change in the industry. We all know, right? We all had to pivot. We all had to change our ways. We all had to do things differently until our world came back. And so we wanted a feel good takeaway from a speaker. And that's what you delivered. So that was great.
Aw,
Aw,
can
yeah.
I tell you something I took away from your meeting? It was that panel, and I have used it several times. And it goes like
Really?
this: you had a panel, and I was lucky enough to stand in front and moderate it. But we were talking about negotiation, and the message from all of your panelists was just talk to each other, quit holding back information, just be honest. Like, what do you need? What are the problems? Why can't you do that? Why do you need this? And then it works out better. And I'm telling you, Patty, since that time, there have been many times with my clients where I've thought of that and said, I just need to call them and do it like that. Like, what do you really need, or what's the problem? And here's what I really need. Can you help me get that? And it's so magical.
That's probably the biggest thing that we teach, especially with a younger generation. They're used to texting, call. They're not used to calling because, and if you do call, you don't leave a message, right? They see it on their phone and they're like, well, "Why did you leave me a message? Now I got to listen to a message." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, it's kind of crazy," but they're right about that. So I stopped leaving messages. I'm like, well, but they see that I called. But especially if, to me, I tell my team, listen, if you have an email that's going back and forth more than 2 or 3 times, pick up the phone,
Yeah.
have a conversation, because guess what? You're going to get so much more than you even wanted from the conversation. I needed something from a hotel this morning. I needed a better rate. I needed them to lower my resort fee for my client. And I was going to email her, and I thought, no, I'm going to pick up the phone. Picked up the phone, and she said, oh, I can do that. But if I emailed her, I bet I wouldn't get the same response.
Yeah. Such a good lesson. Uh, because so I've believed in that for years, but you at that meeting that really reaffirmed that in a meaningful way. And I've been talking to my kids about it because they're in that generation that does not want to use the app on their thing that says phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a phone app.
And you don't even have to dial. You just push a button.
Yeah. Or even
Yeah.
say, Siri, call Patty.
Yeah.
Well, here we have a fancy meeting planner. I wanted to ask you, were there people who got you to this place? You know from my keynote that I'm interested in encouragement and mentoring and acknowledgement and building up others. Were there? I'm sure there were. Who was that
Well, there
person, or who
were
were those
many.
people for you?
I'm actually in a mentorship program where I do mentor people, because when I was starting out, I thrived that. All I wanted was someone to take me and say, don't do that, do this, this is what the direction you need to go in, because I had no idea. I knew I wanted to be in the hotel business, but I didn't know what part of the hotel business I wanted to be in. There are 32 different departments. I mean, I knew it wasn't food and beverage. I can't cook. I can't serve. I'm just not a food and beverage person. And some people are total foodies. So I knew it wasn't that. So I actually, when I was at the front desk, would go down to convention services and just like the poor guy, I just like sat in his office, like this stupid 19-year-old kid sitting in his office. And he's like, what do you want to know? I'm like, I want to know what you do, because I think that's the job I want. Like, that's what I want. And so on my days off, I would go in and follow him around. And I think he knew I was committed to really trying to find out what niche in the
Right.
hotel I wanted, right? And so I did, and I really learned that that was not the job I wanted. I actually wanted sales and marketing. So it was close to that, but it wasn't quite that. So then I started following that poor guy around, and learned what I really wanted. Now, it took me years to get into sales and marketing. I mean, I had to go through the whole, work my way up and everything, which I did. And in a few years, I was able to get into sales and marketing. And that's where I found my niche. That's what I really love to do. And then from there, took it over to well, I think I would like the planning side of it too. And so having both sides, for a planner to have worked at a hotel for 18 years and know the ins and outs of every
Right.
department and who you go to get something done without maybe offending the person that you say I'm going above you, because you don't go to that person, you just go to the person above right away, and then you don't have to offend them. I think that really helps me do my job, because
Yeah.
I know that side of it. So yeah.
Well, it strikes me that no wonder you're an entrepreneur. You're the kind of person who, in your early 20s, came in on your day off to shadow people.
I figured that was the only way that I could get someone to notice me. So
Right, but that's not common, right? How often has anyone called you and say, Patty, can I come in on my day off and follow you around?
Not very often. I've had a couple, which is good. And the other thing I do is I will tell someone, if you've never worked at a hotel and you want to do what we do, I'm going to set up a training program at a hotel for you. You're going to learn the back of the house. You're going to see what the kitchen looks like. You're going to see what it takes to serve up 2,000 plates. There's literally a conveyor belt that does
Right.
2,000 plates. I didn't know that till I worked at a hotel. And so you get to learn all those things.
Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you said yes.
Well, I'm so glad you asked.
It's a treat. Plus, you have I lived in Mexico for a while, which is code for I'm pretty bad at Spanish, but I know some.
There you go.
And there's this word onda, which is hard to I don't think there's an English word for it, but it's like vibe or like sense. And you have a really great onda. You're just like pleasant and capable and smart and likable. You have a good onda.
Glad to have that.
Patti Palacio, owner of Global Source, rockstar, meeting convention, industry, big star, big shot. I swear I know how to do this. Highest, endest meeting planner. What gives you hope?
I think we've talked about it, is I have hope for the future, for the people coming up in our world, and, mentoring them is a huge thing for me. Is I want to be able to help them find their niche. And my hope is that they will keep our industry alive and running, and they'll find that niche that they want, because our business, it's funny. When you ask people how they got into this business, it's never a clear path. It's usually pretty muddied. But I got here, and I'm so glad I got here, because, a lot of people, if you're at a dinner party on Sunday night and they talk about their jobs, right? Oh, I have to go to work tomorrow.
Right.
I've never felt that way. I want to go to work tomorrow because I love what I do. And that is really the true blessing. So I hope that everybody is able to find that niche that they want. And if we need to help them find it, we want to be here to mentor them to do that.
Oh, you're a rock star. It's Patti Palacio. Global Sources, spelled funny, GLOBEAUX, right?
AUX.
AUX. I put an extra E in it. Even I messed it up.
It's kind of the New Orleans way. I wanted something with global in it, and we source business, obviously, to hotels. And so when I went to open my company, international or global name was taken. So, I had a cocktail and thought, just spell it different. There you go.
What was the cocktail?
I don't even know, actually. I'm sure it was probably a vodka something.
It was worth it. I'm so grateful for your time. Thanks for shedding some light on your very cool industry, and congratulations on all your success.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, hold on with me just a little bit. Everyone else, be nice to each other. When you're negotiating, just call. Just call all the time. If there is a takeaway, there it is right there.
True.
Thanks, Patty. Hold with me. Everyone else, be good.